Welcome to this week's edition of Seminar Sunday. As always, these seminars are being recorded, and the link will replace the registration link on the D21 website and will also be available under the resources link. Just follow through to Seminar Sunday. This week's edition comes to you live from the beautiful BC Ferries to Watson Ferry Terminal arrivals area with lots of people in the background. Thanks to the overload of the walk-on passengers, creating a one sailing wait for walk-on passengers, and the ferry is running about 20 minutes late. This is where we're kicking this off from. However, this week we have a very special treat. Our immediate past district director and distinguished Toastmaster, Carol Carter, who you've been talking to for the last 5 minutes. Carol has a wealth of knowledge about mentoring, and I've asked her to help me help you appreciate the value of mentoring. Okay, in today's session, we're going to help you understand the roles of both mentors and proteges, which is the term that Pathways prefers to use in place of mentees. We're going to use both terms, so don't get too worried about it, but when you do get into Pathways, you'll see proteges is the term that they like to use. So you're going to be able to, today you're going to be able to identify the traits of a good mentor. You'll learn the differences between mentoring and coaching. In addition, you'll have an opportunity to join in the discussion, although you won't be able to talk, you'll be able to type, with Carol on Pathways and how this mentoring is being, how the mentoring is being handled in this exciting new education program. But before we go in, I do want to take a quick poll. Carol, if you could go to the next slide, and if you could open up the poll with the question that says, have you ever been a mentor?
Well, so far, 5 of our participants have said yes, they have been mentors, and 0 have said no. So I would say that accurately reflects the people that are in this room. I will close the poll.
That's good to know. Okay, well, the purpose for that was to, and by the way, thank you everyone for putting in their responses. It does help us understand your background. And for those people who've been a mentor before or who are going to be one, obviously everyone here has been one, I'm sure you have some preconceived ideas about what a mentor is or the role. So we're going to look at what the mentor is from a high level first. Then we're going to go look at it in some more detail. So first from a high level, if you could go to the next slide, slide 4.
I'm there, yeah.
So a mentor is an experienced member who provides both guidance and support to empower the proteges to reach their goals. The most successful mentors have been proteges in the past, and often continue to work with mentors of their own. So understanding the role of a protege is fundamental to being the best mentor you can be. So let's take a look at what that role really entails. So if you go to slide 5. So.
There we go.
So the members with years of experience can benefit, whether they got years of experience or not, but the ones with years of experience can benefit from the support of a mentor as much as a new member who's working towards their first speech. So being a protege is about aiming higher, about trying to reach a higher level and becoming better through the support and guidance of another person. Now, successful proteges exhibit similar skills and attitudes, and these are some of those skills and attitudes. They're adaptable with a desire and willingness to learn. They seek to meet goals and overcome challenges. They're willing to consider new ideas and suggestions. They're open to receiving feedback and are prepared to reach out for guidance. And they ask questions. They're also respectful of their mentor's time and boundaries and they recognize that they're accountable for their own self-growth and development. And one more bonus point. They're willing to share their goals and information, or their goals and information about themselves. So before we go on any further, I wanted to ask Carol a question. What kind of skill or attitude of the protege do you feel is the most important for a successful protege-mentor relationship?
I think the protege or the mentee really needs to take ownership of the process. So they have to be eager, willing, and open to learning and gaining all that they can out of the process.
Oh, that's very good. Okay. I appreciate that. So we're going to take a poll. We want to ask the question. The question is, do you have a mentor? Do you have a mentor for yourself?
There we go. Poll is up. The poll is open. And so far it's 50-50.
Ooh.
Oh, it's 75-25.
75 for being a mentor?
Oh,
having
now
a mentor?
It's 60-40. Keeps changing. Okay. Well, I have a mentor, so if you added me to that, it would tip the scales in the yes category.
So that is really good. Having a mentor is a really good thing. I think it is. I finally have a mentor, and I am not using that mentor effectively. That's my fault. That's my bad. We'll talk about that coming up in the next slide. So let's look at the traits of a really good mentor, if we could. So let's jump forward to that.
Oh, oops. All right. Traits of
a little
successful
table
mentor.
here. So as you can see from the table, there's like 4 key traits of a successful mentor, and then each of them has some sub-traits. So the 4 key traits are having both experience and knowledge. Well, that makes sense. Being positive and supportive. Well, that also makes sense. Showing respect and caring, something we often forget. And finally, being committed and dependable, which you kind of expect that one as well. So whether you have these traits now or not, you can always develop them and become a successful mentor. You don't actually have to have all of these things. Like, you may consider yourself not to be as positive and supportive. Well, that's me. But you may consider yourself not to be necessarily as committed and dependable, which I definitely am. Well, at least committed, if not dependable right now.
So, you're on the call right now.
Consider what you think is most important and how you might develop that trait within yourself. So just think about that for a moment. Which do you consider to be the most important, and how you might further develop that trait within yourself? And now we're going to go to another poll question.
We've got 3 out of the 4 selected. We've got 17% for experienced and knowledgeable, 33% for positive and supportive, and 50% for committed and dependable. And 0 for respectful and caring. So no, they don't really care about the respectful and caring. They want results. They want that positive support.
Well, no. Maybe they feel that they've already got that. So it's important that they've already got that skill. Maybe.
Could be. And if anyone wants to type anything in the chat.
And let us know what you think.
So a mentor can be rude and mean? No. Although some have when they've had to. So I don't think it's a fact of not being respectful and caring, but I think that it's more important to be committed and dependable, positive and supportive, and experienced and knowledgeable from this group.
Okay. Let me see if I can take control. Oh, you've got it. Right. Oh, I didn't want to go to the next slide just yet. I have an intro for that one, but that's okay. So I know there's a lot of confusion over the roles of a coach and a mentor, so let's take a look at a side-by-side. That's it. I was just going to do a little intro for it. So here we have a side-by-side view of the roles of a coach and a mentor. Now, there's a lot of stuff on this slide, so let's just go through it. The coach is focused on the short-term accomplishments, whereas the mentor is looking at longer-term. The coach provides the means for the protege to meet their goal, where the mentor supports the protege. There's some subtle differences there. A coach provides specific feedback and direction, where the mentor is more general and non-judgmental. Very important. The coach determines the tasks and steps the protege is to take, and whereas those tasks and steps are determined by the protege in a mentor-protege relationship. So the mentor will give some guidance, but they're expecting that the protege will take the responsibility for determining the tasks and steps that they go forward with. Similar to where the coach provides direction for future actions, the protege takes responsibility for future actions in the mentor-protege relationship. Now, Carol, you have a lot of experience in this area, a lot more experience than I do, because I know that you've been involved in doing a lot of coaching as a professional, and also you've been doing mentoring and been a protege-mentee for many years, working with some of the best mentors around. So which area do you consider to be the most important difference between a coach, or the role of a coach, and the role of a mentor?
Right. A coach is going to coach you for specific results that you have agreed to beforehand. So the coach is going to prescribe, you do this and you do that. Come on, what are you doing? Do more of this, and holds you accountable. Whereas a mentor has been there, has done that, and will share stories of what they did, what happened to them, if they had to do it over, what they would do different. So they're more of a guide of, you can carry down this path. If I were where you were, I might try this. Or the situation of the mentee is going to be completely different than it was for the mentor. It's not going to be absolutely identical. Whereas the coach is taking you down, here's here is the road that we're going to travel. These are the things that I expect you to do. You're going to do them. When you get this far, then I'll give you the next step and keep moving you toward the end result that you're after.
Next step is we have another poll. And this one comes to you from this follow-up question. Hang on, let me just get this poll question up there.
While you're doing that, Suzanne, yes, guidance versus instructions. The coach is going to give you instructions and the mentor is going to give you guidance. That's good. Thank you.
All right. So this is a trick, maybe a trick question, but here's a question for you. Let me share this thing, by the way. Is providing guidance on vocal variety, on using vocal variety, is it a coaching or is it mentoring?
Ooh, we're split 60-40.
All right. I'm going to close that poll. Well, that's interesting because I don't know. Okay, so we're going to talk about mentoring. That's what this slide's talking about, is that Carol and I are going to have a little conversation about mentoring. And please feel free as audience members to chat along, ask some questions, and we'll see where this takes us in this process. Now that we've covered some of the technical basis, let's talk about mentoring from a more personal perspective. I know I've asked you a few questions, Carol, but I am looking for a little bit more personal information, your first-hand knowledge of being both or all three, a coach, a protege, and a mentor. And again, anyone have some questions along the way about what the role is or what the responsibilities are and how to do some stuff, then feel free to jump in. So first, before we get into some of the more formalized questions, we have within both our clubs a mentoring program, and within Pathways a program around mentoring. We have in our daily lives mentoring opportunities and in some cases responsibilities. As a club member, we're expected to mentor the new members, to help them out and give them guidance. So we're somewhat obligated to do this, but it's also really good experience and value to do that. A general question, Carol, you've got a little bit more experience in this than I do, and I'd like your feedback on it. In the audience, you can please jump in. But how does that pairing up happen? How do you do that effectively within a club? How do we make sure that we have a mentor and protege relationship that's successful? And especially, if a club that has a small number of members, it may be more difficult, but what's the first thing that ought to happen, and who's responsible for making that work?
Right. Well, I've seen different clubs do different things. One club that is very successful, they have a VP mentorship instead of just a VP membership. So the VP mentorship works with those pairings, educates the mentors, checks in with the mentors and the mentees to see how the relationship is going, and continues to get rid of roadblocks, keep them moving forward. And if the relationship just isn't the right match, they'll rework that. And it really does take somebody with a lot of great active listening skills to do that role effectively. I've seen other clubs where they say to the mentee to be, watch our members for a couple of meetings and then tell me who you would like to be your mentor. And they're really looking to match the mentor up with what they hope to get out of the program, or what pain they came to overcome. So if they see somebody who is working very well in the professional world, maybe they are a supervisor or a manager, or maybe an owner of a company, and that person really wants to learn from them, they might choose them as their mentor. If they see somebody who's a really accomplished speaker, they might choose them. What that does, though, is that leaves some of the members out that might not be chosen. So it's a risky run. But I found where clubs kind of say, well, who wants to get that? Who wants to be a mentor? And somebody raises their hand and they have not fully prepared to be an effective mentor, that relationship might not necessarily serve the mentee. So I love the process that Toastmasters has put together to help prepare you to mentor effectively. I think it is absolutely brilliant. It gets rid of a lot of those issues. And I see that Marion made a note here. I chose my mentor once I was in Toastmasters a month or so. Someone I click with, we were together for my first year. Yes. And I think that is a brilliant way to do things.
I like that approach. Now, I was assigned a mentor when I first joined Toastmasters, and I had very little interaction with that person, but that was my fault. I think the most interaction I got, or the most valuable interaction I got, was the person was pushing me along and very supportive, and I thought that was great. I mean, I didn't need a lot of pushing. As a matter of fact, I remember I went up to the mentor once, and I said, I noticed that there was a speech slot open that meeting that had just opened up. Someone had dropped out. And I said, I'm ready to do my icebreaker. Can I do it? And she was like gung-ho and very supportive and said, yeah, go for it. And it gave me a great evaluation, a second evaluation. So I had my evaluator, but I also had her giving feedback on that, and a lot of good feedback and very supportive. And I thought, this was really got me excited about Toastmasters. And I don't know if I would be where I am in life. Definitely don't know if I'd be where I am in Toastmasters without that supportive, positive guidance and just general relationship that we had at that very beginning. It wasn't much, but it was enough, and it was meaningful, and I always think of her as my mentor, even though we had very little relationship of any kind. We still follow each other on Facebook, so that's really great. She moved away a long time ago, so it's been really great. So I do think it's wonderful.
Yeah, there's a couple things going on there, though. When you're first getting into Toastmasters, you really need somebody to orient you on how the program works. So that might have been the start of your relationship, right?
Exactly.
More orientation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I didn't know what the heck a CC was or a CL, nor did I care. I was just like, I was trying to check a box here. Especially with Pathways. I don't know. We think that Pathways is going to be a bigger challenge than it is. I'm not sure. I think people coming in looking at what we had in the legacy system, it was pretty messy and complicated. So it's figuring out how to go from one to the other. There's a lot of training and guidance needed. So I just think that it was valuable, and it was that positive relationship to me was very meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
So Carol, you joined Toastmasters back in 2010, February 2010, a full year and a month ahead of me. So you're 13 months way more senior than I am. And since then, you've accomplished more than a few things in the Toastmaster program. Give credit where credit is due. You've done pretty darn well. And I can only hope that I do as well as you did when I retire from this role in about 10 months from now. But what portion of that time, that history, that experience, can you directly attribute to being mentored? And what you've accomplished, what can you attribute to being mentored?
I would say all of it. The very first thing, when I got into the program, I was assigned a mentor, and she would every once in a while come up to me and give me a nudge. And she'd say, oh, I think that you should do this. Oh, I think you should do that. And the nudge came just, 4 months into the program. And she said, oh, you should go in the humorous speech contest. And I said, is that a thing? And she said, oh, yes. She explained that we have these 2 contest seasons. And then I looked at her and I said, but I'm not funny. And she said, well, you had that one speech that we kind of snickered, that it was sort of funny. You could work on it. And because she did that, and then the mentee in me I love a challenge. And I thought, well, what did I join Toastmasters for? I joined Toastmasters to overcome my fears. And I had a deep-seated fear of being judged. I had also a fear of trying to be funny, because I had those awful experiences where I thought I was funny and nobody laughed. And, and I wish I could drop through the floor. So I worked really hard. And because of that, and because of all the mentoring from different people unofficially in my team, I ended up going right through to district, and I competed on the district stage. I don't think I should have been conscious by the end of it, because my heart was beating way too fast for any human being. But wow, that stretched me and grew me in ways I cannot even tell you. And it made me realize how valuable competing is and what I was ruining for myself in being afraid to be judged and never competing in anything. So that set me on a path of competition. And then, from there, I got to see a lot of clubs. I got to see a lot of opportunities. I really wanted to make a difference. And that put me toward leadership, where I could give back and contribute. And then along the way in leadership, I would reach out for the help that I needed. And I always found a mentor that was 5 steps ahead of me to take me to the next level. And for instance, when I decided I wanted to go for the trio, I reached out to someone who had been there, done that, and gone through international actually. And I asked for advice. She really checked me. Why do you want to do this? And made me get very real with myself. I would not I don't think I would have accomplished any of this had it not been for my mentors.
Wow.
And I see that there are comments going crazy.
Oh, I wouldn't say crazy, but yeah, I think there's a couple there that I thought we should address right away. First of all, Marion said, most importantly, the mentee needs to create a time for the meeting. And she said, for me, I needed that structure of time and place. The mentee protege is responsible for ensuring that takes place, not the mentor. So I think you're absolutely right. And having that and making sure that the mentee protege has various needs, and various people have various needs. Some of them need more, and some of them need more structure than others. So they really should be the ones who take control of that, so that they determine their own future. And that really is one of the key differences between being in a mentor-protege relationship and a coach-protege. Carol, your comments on that?
Oh, sorry. I was reading through the. I am
sure,
guilty.
You didn't listen to me. Okay, fine. Okay, let's move on to the next
absolutely. One. No, the mentee does need to create time. That is key and vital. Is the mentee has to honor the time that has been set aside. Otherwise, they won't have a mentor. And if they're not going to make the time to do the work in between meetings, then there's no sense in meeting. So it's really the mentee driving things forward and making sure that they take action on what's been discussed.
Right. Now, I see that Bashar has made some comments about mentoring is also, there's not only formal, there's informal mentoring. I'd say it's not really mentoring, it's more guidance, but I see there's some back and forth commentary on that, which is important to identify what you want. I see that from Marion, okay, and can happen specifically in Toastmasters, also in your career. Well, obviously, yes, it can happen. Yep, got it. Any more comments you want to have on that one, Carol, before I jump to the next question?
No, I think that's good.
All right. So we talked about challenges. You talked about some of the challenges. When people first enter the Toastmasters program, we're encouraged to set them up with a mentor right away. What are the challenges you've seen both as a mentor and as a VP education with the process of setting up a mentor? And we talked about some of the relationship, but what are the challenges that you see in doing that?
Right. Well, you don't know how people operate. And without a process, and I see that Suzanne had mentioned that she was thinking of having a meeting, 15-minute scheduling and mentoring moments at the end of the meeting, 15-minute check-in. And I think that is actually brilliant to have at a club, because you pair people up, and then if you're not checking in with them, you don't know what's happening in that relationship. Chris Kozakowski gave the example of herself, where she was paired up with a mentor, and she was so shy and she felt so intimidated that she didn't ask for help. And if you've never been a mentee before, you don't realize that this is all mentee driven. And yes, that mentor is waiting for you to ask for help. And if the mentor doesn't know, hey, sometimes you should check in and see how that mentee is doing, then what happens is that brand new protege might not be in your club for very long. they're definitely not getting what they need. So, Suzanne, brilliant idea. In the club, have a mentoring check-in. I think that's perfect.
I like that idea too. I think
the
that's
other thing.
I feel guilty as a mentor occasionally, and so I would like to have that. Only because I feel that they're not pushing me, and I'm not pushing them. If they push me, I'll give them whatever I can do to provide guidance on them. But I do want to be pinged. So I think having a formal check-in process, I think that's a brilliant idea.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that I think Pathways fixes, by the way, the pathway for mentoring in the Pathways program doesn't start until you hit level 3, and then it's optional. But they set this process up brilliantly, because I've been in a situation where I was ready to mentor somebody, and what she really wanted from me was coaching. She wanted to deliver a TED Talk level speech as her icebreaker. And she thought I was going to come to her house a couple of times a week and work with her and film her and get her all set to do her icebreaker speech. And I had to give her a little reality check. I said, this speech is just to get you talking. Just talk. And she was afraid. I don't know. She was afraid of people's judgment or something like that. She wanted to make a real splash. So people get into a mentoring relationship and they don't really know what mentoring is. Yay, Pathways, for fixing that. I think it's beautiful.
Okay. Another question for you, Carol. The focus in the Legacy program is on mentoring new Toastmasters through their first 3 speeches. But as you've illustrated, mentoring can be helpful to any Toastmaster at any stage. So what have you seen work well in clubs for their more, let's say, seasoned Toastmasters?
Yes, I think that everybody deserves to have a mentor, whether they get it in their club or whether they go outside their club. It's up to them. But I believe that the value of the Toastmasters program is the mentoring. In fact, Dr. Ralph Smedley himself said that the value of our Toastmasters program is in the criticism and the mentoring. He called it criticism. We call it feedback. So if you are more advanced, you can get to a point where you stagnate. And sometimes you need that outside person who is aware of opportunities that you might not have your eye on. Habits that you've fallen into that you don't realize, and maybe you're getting whitewashed feedback from other people. So you've really got to recheck your goals at different points in the program and say, okay, here's what I've accomplished. Here, I think that I've achieved this goal. What's next? And keep yourself moving forward. Also, a good mentor can keep you doing that. They can see some hidden qualities in you that you might not even realize and invite you to bring those out in what you do. I honestly don't think that you should be stuck within your club, but I do think that your VP Ed or your VP membership, or if you have a VP mentorship, somebody should be aware of who in the club is not being mentored and be checking in with them every once in a while saying, hey, have you got a mentor yet? What is it that you want to achieve? Maybe we can reach out to other clubs and find somebody looking to mentor you.
You mentioned a few minutes ago, Pathways, you have to get to level 3 before you can actually be a formal mentor. If members are working in the Legacy program, they're on a pathway, or if they're working on the Legacy program or they are on the Pathways program but have not finished level 2, and they haven't launched level 3 mentoring program, can they still be a mentor to brand new Toastmasters? So whether you're working on the Legacy program now, or if you haven't reached that level 3 mentoring program level and completed it within Pathways, can you still be a mentor to some brand new Toastmasters who are working the Pathways program?
And I'm going to say yes. You can ask for any mentor you choose if you're looking for a mentor. And if you see value in somebody in your club, just because they have not yet plunged into Pathways or they have not yet opted in for the pathway that gives you those mentoring skills doesn't mean that you can't learn from them. And if you're in the legacy program, you still need to mentor somebody. I think a couple points in the legacy program if you're going for your DTM. So just because you have not completed this module shouldn't stop you. But I believe that if a brand new Toastmaster is working the Pathways program, there needs to be an awareness that, hey, they need additional help from somebody who is ahead of them in the Pathways program and can help them more with orientation and the how-tos of the Pathways program. So don't not mentor because you haven't finished level 2. Still mentor people. In fact, I'm hoping I'm not overstepping any boundaries. There are some brilliant resources that they provide in the pathway for mentoring that I think every mentor and mentee should be using, whether they're in Pathways or in the Legacy program. And I believe that we have those available to share as PDFs.
Yeah, we're going to share some of the resources in a minute. I'm not sure if you want to share them right now. I don't know if you can share them, but we have some of the in the documents attached to this seminar. So let's talk about resources in a minute. Let's go into that. Do you currently have an official mentor right now?
I do. Yes, I do. And our relationship has kind of stepped back because I needed a breather. Remember, it's mentee driven. I was like, okay, I'm just going to rest for a moment here, catch my breath. And when I'm ready to go the next leg of the journey, let's get back on track. And we meet once a month. When I was district director, we met once a month plus emergencies. When I was program quality director, we met probably every 3 weeks. And that person's still moving me forward, but I do recognize the limitations in that relationship. So I not only have one mentor, I have 3 mentors. And they're all mentoring me in different areas of my professional life, my Toastmasters life, and my personal life. But the people that I've reached out to and said, hey, I really admire what you do here. And had a chat with them about the way I operate and my values, what I'm trying to achieve in the world, and asked them if they would be willing to mentor me because I believe that I have a lot to learn from them. And they've said yes.
Great. Thank you. I'm just going to go back to some of the questions for a moment. Bashar made an earlier comment about that not all mentee driving is not all the time early on. The mentee needs some attention, so I feel it's a two-way partnership. That's what we're talking about. I think that having that 15-minute mentor checkup or review just to see where things are at might be a good way to make sure that that's taking place, that aspect. I see Suzanne mentioned it's important to have an open relationship with Toastmasters from a neighboring club so you get that fresh perspective. I like that idea. If you have a neighboring club or adjacent club or something in an area council that you can tap into, or people that you can, so you get a little bit more, especially for a small club, obviously, and that makes the most sense. And that
How do you convince members to think that who think they don't need a mentor, if you see clearly that they need one to improve their skills? And that's a great question, Celine. You can't convince somebody. This relationship is mentee driven. So the only thing that you can do is ask them questions. You can ask them, well, what are they trying to achieve through the Toastmasters program? How far do they believe that they've come? What do they still have to do to accomplish their goals? And what is their next best step? And then is there anyone here in the club they think can help them with that? And that might lead them to identifying somebody who can help them with one next step. So maybe it's not a full-on mentoring relationship, but at least it keeps them moving forward. And if they say nobody in this club can help me, well, then you've got another challenge. And that's where I say, you've got other clubs in your area. Know the members of those clubs. Go out to area and division events and get to know who some key people are that can help those people that are more advanced keep moving forward. You don't want anyone to stagnate, because if they stagnate, eventually renewals will come along, and they'll decide that the opportunity costs for them staying are greater than the cost of leaving.
Let's say I've never mentored anyone before, or maybe I have, but it didn't go so well. I have a few of those experiences. So someone joins my club. I have no idea what they need or want. I'm chosen to be their mentor, and sometimes I get picked because of whatever. Sometimes I get picked for the wrong reason. But anyway, I'm terrified I'm going to ruin their entire Toastmaster experience. What would you say to me?
Mm-hmm. And this comes up more often than you know. There's a lot of people that feel that weight of responsibility on their shoulders when they're asked to mentor somebody, and they're really afraid of messing them up. It is mentee driven, and your saving grace is you're there to offer guidance, and you don't have to know everything. If there's something that you don't know, somebody else in your club does. So you can refer them to helpful resources. And those helpful resources can include other people. It's not all on you. The key is that you're there as a Toastmaster who is ahead of the game from where this person is starting. And you can relate. You can remember what it's like first coming into the program and how confusing it was, and you didn't really understand what you'd stumbled across. You had no idea how to get the full value out of the program. So your best attack is to just relax. Let the mentee ask you questions, and then think of what questions they should be asking you that they aren't, because they just aren't aware of some of the things that are important to know that they don't know yet. So you can say, have you seen this yet? Have you tried that yet? And you will keep them moving forward. That's the thing about a mentor. You're just trying to help the mentee not stall and not give up on themselves. You're trying to keep them moving forward always.
Good point. I have a follow-up question, and this goes back to the discussion about mentoring versus coaching. How do you prevent, so if one of the fears I have in being a mentor is that I'm going to slide into being a coach and mess the mentor protege relationship up. So how do I, what are the things to look out for?
If you are telling somebody how to do something, you may want to say, would it be okay if I put a little bit of a coaching hat on right now and gave you some key tips that have helped me? And if they say, okay, then you can provide those tips. But again, if the mentee decides not to take those tips, it's not on you. It's up to them. They're driving their experience of Toastmasters forward. All you can do is offer. So you can't mess them up unless you get aggressive. So you can offer what you know as an offering, as a gift. They can unwrap it. They can make use of it if they choose to. And if they don't be tied to the end result. So in some ways, I don't like that word protege, because protege implies that you are molding and sculpting them and they're going to be your work of art. I just really think it should be mentee.
Well, I'm not going to try to change Toastmasters on this one, but I like Suzanne's comments. Each person is responsible for their own learning, and I think that's absolutely correct. Okay, I'm going to take us because we're getting closer to the top of the hour. And as a giving person, I find it difficult to not let people refuse my. Yeah, me too. May I make a suggestion? I love that one, Mary. I like that. So let's talk about some resources. Carol, you want to talk about this slide? This is all about your Pathways Mentoring solution. I think this is your slide, right?
Yes, okay. It is. So this is what I saw when I opted in for the Pathways Mentor program when I got to level 3 in Pathways. And it's very easy to get through the first 2 sections. Prepare to Mentor, I actually uploaded that whole PDF resource, and in there is a mentor self-assessment that you do, and then you're to sit down with your VP of Ed and go through your answers together, and then you hand them a project completion form for them to mark you complete in that one. So I have done that, and I have moved on to the next step. It's very easy to get to mentoring. And when you get to mentoring, Toastmasters has given you all kinds of great videos to watch, great insights to go through, and then they've given you excellent resources. You get a protege success plan that you can give, you can work together with your protege on. The protege does a self-assessment, so you can give them one, and they advise you to do it yourself for you as well, so you have the experience before you give it to them to do for themselves. You've got a mentor communication tracking log if you need that resource. They've done a brilliant job. Honestly, I keep raving about this. I was not as impressed with Pathways as I am now after seeing this one track. I believe that even though it is optional, I believe everybody, when you finish level 2, you should opt in for this. Is even if you don't end up mentoring somebody, it is a wealth of really great information.
I agree. I haven't gotten there yet. I'm waiting, so I have to get somebody to approve my level 2 completion so that I can jump into this, into the mentor program. I'm looking forward to it myself. Speaking of that, in level 2, if you're taking the leadership side, there is a specific project called Introduction to Toastmasters Mentoring. It is a level 2 project, and you can actually get access to it at any time as long as you're in Pathways. Just go to the base camp, click on the tutorials and resources, click on, then search through the project descriptions for Introduction to Toastmasters Mentoring. It's a really good location, really good resource. It's a document to have that, which is really good information about the mentor and protege relationship. And as you said, that there's the Preparing to Mentor information, which is associated with the level 3 optional program on mentoring. And of course, we have on the legacy system, there is a mentoring, and you can download those resources directly. Just look up the product. You go into the product listing and look for 296 mentoring, and you'll find that information. And there is a link right there on the screen. So there's lots of really good information that's available for you, and I highly encourage everyone to continue to go through and take a look at all the information that's there. I'm going to just give one more chance to see if there's any questions. Is there any more questions that are coming up? And I'm not seeing anything yet. Carol, do you have any more comments before I jump to the last slide?
Yeah, there was a comment from Bashar that I think is worth talking about. Bashar mentioned that most clubs he's had contact with are struggling to have quality meetings, let alone the mentoring program, let alone have a mentor for each member. We need to be realistic. How can we help every club on mentoring based on their contact? Should we engage area directors? I think area directors are there as a resource. They may know other people in other clubs who are looking to mentor members, and certainly if you are down to 12 or fewer members, you're struggling just to put on good meetings every single meeting. But a mentor is much more than, I think that a mentoring relationship can be set up to be less time consuming than you're thinking. And if you encourage every single person on your team to, hey, have a buddy. If you don't want to call it a mentoring relationship, call it a buddy relationship. And that buddy's going to help you with anything that you're struggling with. If you catch yourself getting stuck somewhere or not moving yourself forward in the education program, your buddy is there. Have a conversation with your buddy. That is mentoring. Really, it's keeping each other moving forward. One club does that. They set 2 people up as buddies. They're accountable to, they check in with each other if they don't show up at meetings. There's huge value in that. It is one of the major values of the Toastmasters program. And I think especially if you're struggling to have quality meetings, it would be helpful for everyone to have a mentor or a buddy. Club executive member, I feel it's important to provide a structure laying out. Here is how we do mentoring at our club. That's a good point. And every club culture is different. So if you want to create a structure within your team and people want to vote on that and they're all in agreement, absolutely.
Thank you for that. Okay, I agree with that about having a mentor and buddy is very important. So Suzanne, thank you for that, sending that link out. I will forward that on to all of the registered attendees. I see you sent a note about that link to the book. Appreciate that. And just going to jump to the last slide, which is talking about our future Seminar Sundays and what's happening coming up. So thank you for attending this Seminar Sunday. This is the listing of the upcoming seminars. And for your information and to register, just go to District 21, d21toastmasters.org and select events. And all of those events are already set up. You can then click on them and click on the register here link, and that will allow you to register for those events. If I haven't seen any further questions, I want to make sure you all have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you next Sunday for an exciting seminar on pathways. As a special treat, not only was this one brought to you from BC Ferries to Watson Terminal Arrivals area, next week it's going to be coming live from Chicago at the International Convention. So we're going to be staying up late to provide a webinar for you, so looking forward to having everybody show up for that. We're going to be working late on your behalf, so we hope that you all take advantage of that and come and join us for our Seminar Sundays. With that, Carol, thank you so much for your wisdom, for your experience. I really appreciate you doing that. And I really thank all of you for attending and providing some really good insights for this meeting. It made it much more valuable having your feedback along the way. So thank you all. And with that, have a great evening.